Welcome to Mastering HR Data Analytics. Mastering HR Data Analysis with Segun Akiode. My name is Segun Akiode, and I would be your host for today. We would be able to have a very interesting 60 minutes, 45 minutes through my slide, then another 30 minutes for a live case study. Then I'm going to devote another 30 minutes where we're going to be able to take questions from the room to be able to help answer one or two questions that might come up. I have the slide available now, and I'm going to be kickstarting just about now. Kindly drop your name and where you're joining me from in the chat room as I go directly into my slide. Now, it's also fair for me to start by introducing myself for those that know and don't know. My name is Segun Akiode. Interestingly, I like to describe myself as a born teacher. That's something that came out of self-discovery. I'm a born teacher. I'm sure by the end of this class, you will be able to know whether I'm one or not. I read chemical engineering. Interestingly, that's by education, but currently I operate as an HR human resource professional within the rewards space and analytics as well. I have a few expressions. I'm a man of many parts. One of such parts is that I have a growing community on Udemy, about 16,000 students that take my course globally. I have courses on analytics on YouTube. I have courses on compensation and benefits, and I have courses on human resources on Udemy as well. On YouTube, I have a thriving community of over 15,000 subscribers that tend to watch my videos for free. And as a result, based on each of this combination, I felt it's good. Let me have a webinar. This is like the third iteration of this webinar, interestingly, which we're going to be having today. And in terms of opportunity, I've had opportunity to work across two different continents. I used to work in Africa. I'm currently in Europe. As a matter of fact, I'm having this session from the United Kingdom, and we're going to be having an interesting time together. This is the third iteration of Mastering HR Data Analysis with Segun Akiode. The very first time I had this webinar was in November 2023. The second time was in January 2024. And here we are, September 2024, and I'm having this webinar again, but with a lot of twists. Today, we're going to be having a lot of practical experience around HR data analysis and with specific interest in AI. So I have some interesting case study which I'm going to be treating with every one of us, and it's very critical. Please don't miss it. When it gets to that point, please don't miss it. It's also very critical that all videos should be off, audios off during the time. And when we come to question and answers, we would be able to also take questions and answer from here. So what are the major things we're going to be doing today? Critically is the fact that we are going to be looking at the world of HR data analytics. I would introduce you why should you be interested in HR data analysis. I would also mention the compelling reason why you should be interested. I would go to the point of telling you that HR data analysis is about solving problems. So we'll have some questions to solve, more like case studies. Talking about the tools that you can use for analytics, what are the various analytics maturity model, which we would go into as well. Then I would end up with giving you an interesting offer at the end of the class. It's not enough to go through a webinar like this without going through a much more detailed opportunity whereby I'll be opening up a coaching session for individuals that will be interested to join me on sharpening their data literacy skills in the course of the next couple of weeks. That information I will share towards the end of this session. So please Don't miss it. It's very critical that you don't miss any of the parts of the webinar. Very, very critical. And I will take questions when time comes. I will be able to take questions on both platforms. I'm talking about Google Meet as well as YouTube. Only those on Google Meet will be able to ask questions live, where they will unmute themselves and ask me questions. But those on YouTube, you can drop your questions in the chat room when the time comes. So as you join us on YouTube as well, kindly drop your name and where you're joining us from into the chat room. Very critical. Now, I'm just setting up, just completing the setup such that individuals that is not able to join on Google Meet would be able to join on YouTube. So let me go on. I think that is now well set up. Well, now going straight into my slide. So anytime I tend to teach or do any session on HR data analysis, I usually open with this quote. For those of you that have followed my series on LinkedIn, I currently have a series that I started. Today is day 38. So I'm yet to drop day 38, but today is day 38. I started to learn more about data analytics, and I felt there are lots to learn about it. So this is my opening quote. Without data, you are just another person with an opinion. And let's look at this interesting cartoon. So this young man is about to give a presentation, and the individuals or the audience or the stakeholders is saying, one person, just show us all the options up front. That's one person's viewpoint. No, better as one simple flow. No, don't give us multiple options. Just give us one simple flow. Another one says, sorry, it's boring. It needs pizza. So what am I trying to say in essence? The young man is confused. He needs to give a presentation, and everybody wants to have it the way they want it. The strange part about it is that without data, what are you? You are just another person with an opinion. And the basic point is that this quote speaks to data literacy. Data literacy in the sense that the ability to read, to work with data, to analyze data, and to communicate data. That's what we're talking about in terms of data literacy. The whole essence of this webinar is to tell you that as an HR professional, you need to start taking data-driven approach, data-driven decision making. The days of gut feeling is over. The days of feeling that we should do this particular HR initiative is off the room. Not even in the age of AI taking over everything, artificial intelligence taking over every single thing that is happening. So today, you need to now become more data literate. Data literacy in terms of ability to read data, ability to understand data, ability to analyze data. And that's the whole essence of today's session. Just taking you through what you need to concentrate your effort on. So the question is, why should I be interested? Why should I be interested in HR data analysis? Number one, I'm going to be sharing some data with you. So I'm not just going to be telling you why you should be interested. I'm going to be giving you a compelling reason why you should be interested. So according to Forrester's study on building data literacy, their report was able to report that 82% of decision makers, when I say decision makers, I'm talking about C-level executives, I'm talking about business owners, they say that they expect at least a basic data literacy from all employees. Data is the new oil. So the business leaders are asking the question, when I look at my employees, I want a minimum of 82% of my employees to have basic knowledge of data literacy. So when all of them were asked, about 2,000 of them, 6,000 employees, they came to a conclusion. We want all our employees to have a basic level of data literacy, not negotiable. They need to know. But strangely, This is the sad reality. And this is one of the reasons why there's a need for more HR professionals to get into data literacy. Only 11% of employees globally are even confident around their level of data literacy skills. That's according to the Q-Link study on data literacy. So while business decision makers are saying, I want my employees to be data literate, the survey goes ahead and find out that only 11% are actually data literate. And that's a sad reality. And that's one of the reasons why we're saying there is a lot of opportunity. It's almost like the road less traveled. Everybody runs away from data. But if you want to be relevant in the current world where data is everything, you need to run towards data. You cannot be an ostrich when it comes to data anymore. You need to get to understand data, know how to analyze data, know how to communicate with data, because you cannot use gut feeling. That's one of the major reasons. You can't use gut feeling. So this is data now. This is not my gut feeling why you should be interested in HR data analysis. This is a research of over 6,000 employees and over 2,000 business executives. 82% of those business executives says, I want my employees to have minimum data literacy. So this is not you leaving data to IT. This is not you leaving data to the finance team. Even within HR, in human resources, speak with data. So what's the level of talent acquisition? Where are our recruitment sources coming from? That is you using data. If you now want to make a decision, say, oh, we want to restrict our recruitment sources to referrals alone. There's a reason why you're saying that. Why? You've analyzed your recruitment source. You found out that most of your hires are coming from a particular recruitment source. If you now choose to concentrate your effort in that area, that is you using data. But the simple logic is this. Most individuals, when we talk about money, they're interested. So how much did you spend? Only very few people actually. They know how much that comes in. Very few people are tracking. If you don't track, you don't know. Data literacy is critical, even for HR professionals. And one of the reasons is this. One, even according to SHRM, Society for Human Resource Management in the US, they did a white paper on use of workforce analytics for competitive advantage. So when I use the word HR analytics, you'll also see me using people analytics, HR analytics, workforce analytics. Forget about the differences. There are so many school of thought saying HR analytics is not as holistic as people analytics, is not as holistic as workforce analytics. Those are semantics. The major reason here is that when you use analytics, the knowledge of analytics within human resources becomes human resource analytics. When you use it within the people, it's people analytics. When you use data analytics in finance, it's finance analytics. When you use it in healthcare, it's healthcare analytics. Analytics is taking raw data and making insight. Drawing is from data to insight. So when I'm talking about analytics or data analysis, I'm going from raw data to insight. Then I now use the insight to make a decision. So when I relate it to human resources, survey shows that the credibility of HR increases as they start to use data to inform their decisions. So when I choose to say that we want to increase a benefit. So there's benefits, there's compensation, there is benefits that organizations offer to the employees. So let's say, for example, a certain benefit, work from home, just given for example, and we do a research and find out how many employees actually want to continue to work from home, and how many wants to do hybrid, and how many wants to do full physical, back to work, return to work. Then we come to realize and say, oh, it seems that majority of our employees work better. They have work-life integration when they work from home. Then I take a decision from there because there is a survey. I can now present to my management and say, this is what our survey is saying. I am no longer sharing an opinion. I am sharing based on data, and I can take a decision from there. It's also very critical as well that data analytics, HR data analysis is taking raw data. Take note. take raw data and you are creating useful insight out of that raw data. Then, as a result, it tells you to provide the linkage between your people and your business outcomes. So if an organization says we want to increase revenue by 10%, it is the duty of the HR manager or the HR professional or the HR executive or the C-suite HR person to now make a decision and say, if revenue is going to increase by 10%, what should happen to our HR strategy? How are we going to be able to attract, retain, motivate our employees to achieve a 10% increase in revenue? That is where the interjection comes in. Then HR now goes in and say, what did we make? What was our revenue last year? What's the workforce for last year? What's the number of head counts that we're able to do last year? Now, for us to be able to make 10% of that revenue, do we need more workforce? That's one way. Now you're asking questions as the HR person. You're not just thinking gut feeling. It does not mean that you will add more people into the workforce. That's not how we work. A simple metric as revenue per employee ratio can help a great deal. An efficiently run organization is one that uses less employees to make more money. That's an efficient organization. But when you have an organization that have more workforce and making less revenue, that's not well efficiently run. So as the HR person, you need to take the data from the business to say, we want to increase revenue by 10%. So what are we going to do in terms of our effort? In terms of salaries, in terms of total rewards, what are we going to do? Development, what do we need to do? What are the areas of impact or competitive advantage for us as an organization? Then you start to take the raw data, start to create a business problem from the business understanding, understanding fully well what your data is saying, and be able to create a plan of action in HR. That's you taking raw data and making insight out of it. Very critical. Then you need to understand that HR data analysis actually transforms your HR function. It takes HR from a support function into a strategic powerhouse. A beautiful HR professional uses data for business and it becomes a competitive advantage. HR should have a seat at the table. HR should have a seat at the table. Finance already has a seat at the table. Why? They love data. They use data. Marketing already has a seat at the table. Why? Because they are driving sales. Sales already have a seat at the table. Why? Because they are bringing revenue to the organization. For HR to be able to have a seat at the table, in terms of decision making for the organization, HR must add data to the decision they are taking. Every of those decisions must not be based on gut feeling, but must be based on data-driven approach. And that's also very critical. I hope I've been able to convince you. If not, let's go on. What is HR data analytics? Someone will ask. One, according to CIPD, HR analytics, people analytics, as I've mentioned earlier on, workforce analytics, all these words can be used interchangeably, is about analyzing data about people to solve business problems. So HR analytics is not about the tools. It's not Excel. It's not Power BI. It's not SQL. It's not Tableau. It's not Python. No. It is the ability to take your data, HR data, you analyze them and solve your business problem. Take, for example, you have an attrition problem, a workforce attrition problem. So how do we solve it? That's a business problem. You need to understand. So how do I find out? You form an hypothesis. Okay, why are people leaving our organization? It's multifaceted. One, it can be around job satisfaction and employee engagement, can be around salary, can be training, can be culture. It's a lot. As the HR person, you need to gather the data. You need to solve the problem. So we want to solve our attrition problem. Now, what do you need to do? You check your data. So which department are the highest level of employees leaving? That's you now checking. Because why? You're taking a data-driven approach even to that business problem. Two, interestingly, SHRM says HR analytics, people analytics, talent analytics. I've mentioned it earlier on. Each of these words can be used interchangeably. When we use measurement and analysis technique to understand, to improve, and optimize the people side of the business. Optimizing the people side of the business means that we are looking at metrics. When you measure, we're looking at measures that we need to take. What you measure, you can track it. And once you track it, you can improve it. So HR analytics is using measurement and analysis technique. When you say we are measuring revenue per employee, the only reason why you're measuring is that you want to be able to improve it. When you're looking at your time to hire, when you're looking at metrics as turnover, it's like we want to increase efficiency. You're looking at metrics as the compare ratio. What's the number of people we are paying vis-a-vis our mid salary of the organization? That's you checking. What's our employee engagement survey score or employee engagement index? The only reason why you're tracking is because the only reason why you're measuring is because you want to track it and you want to improve it. So I say employee engagement last year was 70%. This year we set a target to want to achieve 30%. What's the difference? That's a 10 percentage point difference. 70 to 80. Now, you now use that to now create employee initiatives or employee engagement initiative to move it from 70 to 80. Maybe within the employee engagement index, employees have been able to say salaries is the problem, or they've said is a work culture, or they've said is work-life balance. What do? You create an initiative around it. So you're using analysis technique to improve and optimize the people side of the business. According to CPHR in Canada, HR analytics is both an art and a science. It is an art and it is a science. There's an art side to HR analytics and there's a science part to HR analytics. When you apply the art and the science to leverage employee data to inform strategic human resource decision, the art part of it is the domain knowledge of HR. And I'm of the opinion that for you to get better in HR analytics, you must have domain knowledge in HR. Gone are the days when IT individuals tend to dictate to people professionals and tell them what they need to do. No. The domain knowledge is the act part of HR. That is you understanding employee motivation. That is you understanding what informs employee satisfaction and knowing what you need to do to attract, to retain, and to motivate your employees. That's the act part of it. Nobody knows HR than HR professionals. Then the science part is you learning data analytics tools, learning about analytics technique. That's the science part of it. But there's the art and there's the science. Both are very critical when we're talking about HR data analytics. Very critical because if you don't have domain knowledge in HR, how do you want to make recommendations? You can't just make recommendations based on the numbers. So analytics is not just me showing you the graphs. No, you need to tell me what can I see? What can I do? Knowing fully well that when you're talking to business managers and business professionals, they may be non-technical, but you need to be able to tell them what they can understand. That is the part of data literacy around communicating the outcome of your data analysis. Very, very critical. Then there is the analytics maturity stages. Within an organization or within the scope of analytics generally, there are different stages of analytics. Now, these stages are critical because you need to know where you are playing. It's more around going to the science part of it. At every time, everything is in stages. And these stages are: one, we start with descriptive analytics. Descriptive analytics is talking about insight about the past. Something has happened. What has happened? So when you describe what has happened, that is descriptive analytics. You're not doing anything. You take your historical data on HR and you tend to describe it. This is our workforce head count. This is our talents management scores in terms of our IPOs. You're just describing. That's the first stage. The second stage is talking about diagnostic. Diagnostic is saying understanding the past. Why did it happen? So is the next step after descriptive. So after I understand what is happening, I need to ask myself, so why did it happen? So our turnover rate, for example, increased. Maybe we're at a 5% last year. But this year to date, our turnover is already getting to 10 digits, or let's say 9.8. Now, you need to ask the question, so what happened last year? Why did we have a turnover in terms of employee turnover or attrition 5% last year and we're having a 9.8 this year? You need to ask the question. So what is happening? That's diagnostics. Then you now need to go to the next stage of predictive. So you need to understand future outcomes. So if you continue at this trajectory, what is likely in terms of what is likely to going to happen? If we don't check our attrition, what is likely to happen? What is exactly going to happen? That's the predictive. Now, for you to do predictive analytics, it involves a lot of model building. This is where you now move from the point of descriptive to diagnostic to predictive. This is where the difference comes in, where we talk about data science, machine learning. They are talking about predictive model. You are going on the higher part of analytics. Most of the time, HR professionals will be doing more of descriptive and diagnostics. Little of predictive. For you to do predictive, then you are going into the data science bit of things. Yes, there are tools that can help you do a little bit of descriptive without you learning code, without learning Python, without learning R. All of that is possible. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be showing you one cool feature in Power BI where you'll be able to now do a little bit of prediction or trying to understand what has happened within your data set. I'm going to get to it. Don't miss that part in the study. Then the last part is your prescriptive analytics. Prescriptive analytics is saying, now that we have understood what has happened, why it is happening, what is likely to happen, how can we make it happen? Or are there decisions we can make to avoid a future option? That's the next question to make. Are there decisions that we need to make that would help us avoid any other future problem in the past? That's also very critical. So you need to be able to understand what should we do to avoid decisions or future outcomes. Very, very critical. Then the next question is this. Most of the time, we will be doing more of descriptive and diagnostic analytics. The predictive and the prescriptive analytics is more advanced levels of analytics, very critical. But this various part is very critical because they tend to happen. So I'm going to show you one now. Look at this model. Now I'm going to be looking into my chat room. What can you see? What can you see? Interactions. What can you see from what you can see on the chart that is being displayed? This is actually a workforce attrition analysis dashboard that was done in Power BI. Now, the question for me is, what can you see? Can anybody drop what they can see in the chat room? What can you see in the chat room? Tell me, what can you see in the chat room? What can you see? What can you see? More males than females. Okay, interestingly, yeah, that's 60% male, 40% female. Yes, that's the first thing you're seeing. Job satisfaction and performance rating. What can you see out of it? Yes, is there. Young workforce. Okay, interesting. Head count. Yes, interesting. Now, if I'd shown you this, Imagine if this is what I showed to you. Would you be able to tell me the head count from showing you this data in Excel? I'm sure the answer will be a no, right? Simply because the fact that it is in a table, you can't make sense out of it. But now that it is in a form of a graph, what I'm doing here is called descriptive analytics. So what have I done? I have described the data. I've summarized the head count, easy to see. I've summarized the average workforce age. I've summarized the average tenure in terms of length of service. I've summarized the head count by gender. You can easily see job satisfaction. That's an outcome of a job satisfaction survey. You can easily see the average performance rating across the organization on a scale of 1 to 5. You can easily see the workforce age distribution. And you will notice that majority of the employees are between 20 and 40. That's why one of the comments said is a young workforce, no issues, no doubt. Then you can notice that majority of the employees in the organization have spent between 0 and let's say 5 years, a larger percentage of employees. Then this is the part I was mentioning. Now, if I now want to look for information about my information, I'm going to be getting into that case study in a few minutes. Then this is where the key influencer comes in Power BI. I'm going to show that in a bit. But what you can see here was generated using data analytics tools. But before you can use data analytics tool to generate this, you must understand the science and the art. So let me go into a little bit of details. So when you now start talking about charting functionality in either Excel or Power BI, you must know when to use a pie chart or a donut chart. You know when to use a graph. You know when to use each of these things. Now, that is the science part. Now, you need to understand all of this, which is some of the things that it goes into the tool parts in analytics. So when we're talking about analytics, we're coming from data to insight. And there are 6 steps for you to move from data to insight. Number 1 is business understanding. What do I know about my business? The way you are going to apply analytics to a growing organization will not be the same as a mature organization or a declining organization. The way you're going to apply analytics to a fast-moving consumer goods will be different from that of a startup, will be different from else. So each business understanding is very critical for you to apply to go from data to insight. You know your organization more than I do. I play in the fast-moving consumer goods sector, so I understand my business. If I go into healthcare, I will still need the domain knowledge of healthcare to be able to apply what I'm doing. Very critical. Then 2 is you understanding what category of data do you have. There are 2 types of HR data when it comes to the science part of data collection. There is numeric data or quantitative data, and there is qualitative data. And I'll give examples. Numeric data are data that you can measure. So they are specific data. The age of an employee is numeric. The dates is numeric. When you pick date and time, those are specific. But when we're talking about qualitative data, if I do a survey and I want to know, so what do you feel? Example, employee satisfaction. So on a scale of 1 to 5, can you grade your level of employee satisfaction within this organization? That is open to subjectivity, simply because as an employee, how I feel as at the time I'm taking the survey would influence what I do. If I do the survey when you just did a deduction from my pay, or you just did maybe I was supposed to get a bonus and I didn't get it, I'm going to be biased at that time. What if you do an employee engagement survey after salary payments or after a salary increment? What do you expect? What you will notice is that, okay, I'm getting a notice and I just need to confirm whether you can still see my screen. And I'm resharing again. So if you cannot see my screen after now, it might be that your network might, yes, it might be a network issue from your side. So you may just need to log out and log back in to be able to see my screen. So the data is critical. Are you picking numeric data or qualitative data? Then you need to prepare your data. This is where the science part tends to come in. The science part, you need to prepare your data. Then you need to go into data analytics, data analysis, and modeling. You need to be able to model your data. So I showed you that descriptive, the dashboard, the workforce attrition analysis earlier on. What you can see is the final product, which is around me presenting it to you. But a lot of things has gone at the background. The other part is me validating my data. What you are seeing when I showed you that presentation was I present the insight. So I'm presenting the output of that data. But I didn't tell you about the business understanding. I didn't tell you what industry that data is for, because it will be different. The data I showed you is not a silver bullet. Depending on the data you're using, the outcome would be different. And you need to recognize, because there are different levels, 6 different levels from going from data to insight. So not to worry. I may not be able to cover all of this in this webinar, but you know the interesting part about it, I'm opening up a coaching session for anybody that wants to learn under my wings. I'm going to be giving that information towards the end, where we will use each of these data and we will solve business problems. Now, the major challenge I notice, and one of the reasons why this webinar is very critical and dear to my heart, is that you see more people learning about data analytics, but not specific to human resources. We learn data analytics, but not specific to human resources. And that's what we aim to do. So you go from data to insight. Then the next question is this: what tools do people use? Now, this is where I get, and this is where the problem usually comes up. When people are talking about HR analytics, this is what they shine in your face. They shine all these tools in your face, not knowing fully well that you need the art part of data, which is on the domain knowledge. They show you the science part. They tell you need to learn Excel. You need to learn Power BI. You need to learn Tableau. You need to learn SQL. You need to, sorry, I've come to debunk it. You do not need tools first to learn analytics or HR analytics. The first thing you need is your domain knowledge in HR. The knowledge of solving problem is more important than the tool of what you use to solve the problem. If you go ahead and learn Excel, you learn Power BI, you learn Python, and you don't have the domain knowledge of HR, you're going to get into trouble. Most individuals go ahead and sign up for courses on data analytics without understanding the domain knowledge of HR, and they want to apply it to HR. No. So you want to learn you want to learn HR analytics. I start from, what do you currently do in HR? If you're a talent acquisition individual, the first conversation I'm going to ask you is that, what kind of report do you write in talent acquisition? Do you track your recruitment source? Do you track the efficiency of each of the sources? Do you track the time to hire? Do you track the cost per hire? Those are the metrics you should be tracking. If you're a talent acquisition person, you should be tracking the quality of your hire. So what's the quality of your hire? What's your bench strength in terms of succession planning? What's your level of, if you look at the 9-box matrix, where do each of the people, do you have high potential, low performance? That's what you should be tracking. Are you in compensation and benefit? Then you should be looking at revenue per employee. You check your compa ratio, time in position, time to promotion. Those are metrics you should be tracking. You notice I've not mentioned anything around Excel. That is the art part of analytics. When you now know what you want to do, then you can now look at this, your toolkit, and say, which of these tools can I use to achieve what I want to achieve? So my advice, don't learn the tool first. No, learn the domain knowledge first. Then you can know which tool you will use to solve what you want to do in HR. So it is not the tools first, it is actually the domain knowledge of HR first. Then you can pick the tool you want to use to solve it. So this is my advice. Learn minimum Excel. Minimum. Excel is the simplest form that you can learn. Please learn Excel. If you are good with Excel, for most of what you'll be doing in analytics in your HR profession and your day-to-day HR, Excel will be critical for you. Some individuals does not even need Power BI. You don't need Tableau because you may not be using it in your organization. If you know how to use Excel very well, you know how to translate into other parts, which is very critical. But now my advice is take a tool at a time, then you will move on. I'm going to still go to question time to be able to go into all of these things. But now I want to quickly talk about ChatGPT. You know, the realm of AI, very critical. So generative AI and HR data analysis. There are a lot of questions around, will AI take over analytics? So why should I now still learn analytics when there are AI tools that can get it done? Yes, there are AI tools that can do data visualization for you now. There are AI tools that can help you analyze your data. As a matter of fact, within Excel, there's an AI feature that all you need to do is to import your data into Excel. You click on that feature in Excel and your data gets analyzed for you. Don't worry, I'm going to do it in the case study in a few minutes. So what is generative AI? So generative AI are a set of algorithms, and they are capable of generating seemingly new realistic content such as text, images, audio from disparate sources and quickly summarize multiple data sets. So when you go on ChatGPT and you say, can you help me craft a HR strategy? So what will ChatGPT do? ChatGPT will go on the internet and go and sort information and present it to you as new. The major problem is that it might not give you the source of the data, but you can also make it give you the source of the data. So that's the way it works. Then there are also generative AI capability that you're talking about ChatGPT, you're talking about Gemini, you're talking about Cloud AI. There are 1,001 of them. There is one that you can use to create data. You can generate an entire image now. Without going into photography, you can edit a video using generative AI. That's how powerful it is. So how does it work with HR? Now, it offers human resources and HR analytics several powerful, compelling capability. Now, the question anybody will ask is this. ChatGPT is an AI-powered chatbot. A lot of people know about it. But let me tell you this. Is AI going to take my job? This is my question. ChatGPT, for example, will not take your job. But those that know how to use ChatGPT will take your job. By reverse, AI will not take your job. But those that know how to use AI tools will take your job. That's very critical because even with ChatGPT, there's a way, there's what we call chatbot prompts. There's a way you can use ChatGPT to get you results. So I can use ChatGPT to get me a result now that when you use it, it will give you a different result. So it's a function of you understanding the methodology of using each of those tools. Very critical. Then now looking at what are the things that you should take note of. So this is one of the features I'm going to be using in Excel. It's called Analyze Data in Excel. I must mention, if you want to find this feature in Excel, you should be using the latest version of Excel, preferably of Microsoft 365. That's the premium subscription-based feature, or any of the most recent feature of 365. You will see there's a feature called Analyze Data. I'm going to be getting into the practical session in a bit now, where I'm going to show this. There's another one. When you go into Power BI, there are two AI functionality in Power BI that can help you understand your data better. One is ask questions. So when you import your data into Power BI, you can ask questions. You can just type it like normal asking your friend a question, and Power BI can help you analyze your data, similar to what happens in Excel. Also, within Power BI, this is one feature which I'm going to be practicalizing. All of this feature, I'm going to be practicalizing them in a few minutes when I get into the case study now, so that at least you can take something out of this session for your own sake. There's what we call the key influencer feature in Power BI. This one takes everything a notch higher. So I did a quick scenario on it where I imputed an HR data, a sample HR data, and I wanted to know what are the prediction of attrition within an organization. And Power BI start to give me indications of the likelihood of employees leaving the organization based on the parameters I was imputed. Very powerful feature. That's one way of adopting AI, and you need to learn about it. Very, very critical. It's taking it to the world a notch higher. Then there are some other ones. There's what we call getlumina.com. What does getlumina.com do? You impute a data set. I mean, you upload your data into the website, and it will analyze your data for you and give you insight about the data. Very similar to Cloud AI. Cloud AI is an AI assistant for data visualization, very similar to what Power BI does. So people might be asking me questions. So what's the difference between Excel and Power BI? Power BI is business intelligence. It's almost doing what Excel does on steroid. Excel has some limitations. It can only take 1 million rows of data. So depending on how deep the data you're working with, then Power BI becomes important. Now, Cloud AI, what does it do? You impute your data into Cloud AI, and Cloud AI will analyze your data for you. Simple. You just put some prompts. I call something chat box prompts. You put in the prompt, and it will analyze the data and visualize the data for you. And you can pick up the data from there and start to use it. Marvelous, right? Awesome. Now, some of these things we will be doing in the coaching session, which I'm going to be opening up which I'm going to be announcing in the next few minutes. So I'm going to get into Excel now, get into a practical session now in Excel, and I'm going to show you the functionality called Analyze with data. So this is the data set, sample data set I'm using. Before I do anything within my data sets, how many employees are here within the data set? Very critical. Let me just do a quick check. So I have 115 employees here, which are within this data set. But let me use the functionality in Excel. Let me do some interesting things. So what I've done is to use Excel table. Excel table is a way whereby you can sum up your entire data. But where is the AI functionality in Excel? Let me show you. Now, if you go to data, this is it. On the Home tab, can you see here? Can you see it sitting here? It's called Analyze. So if you're using a version of Excel that doesn't have this, maybe you're not using the latest version of Excel. I'm using Office Microsoft 365, so I get most latest edition or features. So this is it. And this is what I'm going to do. I click within my data set and I click Analyze. Now, what is Excel going to do? So I've import. So I've opened this so that I can see. So now I can ask question about my data. Can you see? So I'm going to ask question, average age. So I want Excel. So let me give an example. Let me just pick one of the ones. Okay, give me insight about tenure. That's the first one. So this is what Excel has done. Excel goes into the data and tends to tell me what is the sum of the tenure. And you can see tenure has an outlier at higher date. So what it's trying to tell me is that individuals that joined the organization from 1999 have a higher tenure within the organization. That's what it's telling me. And I can insert that into a pivot table. If I don't use that functionality, I can just also see some of the auto-generated feature that Excel would do. This is one of such. So what does it do? Age by today's date. This is Excel telling me about the age of the employee, the job grade, and the gender. This is Excel. I've not done anything. I only use the analyze with data, and Excel starts to give me visualization about my information. So this is the age decreasing over dates of service. If I need any other thing, I can just say, click on others. And this is Excel telling me about the job grade and the tenure. So individuals that are officer grade has the highest tenure, which means they've stayed longer in the organization. That's Excel giving me an idea. Now see Excel telling me what about, it's making a comparison within the job age description, talking about Gen Z, millennials and the rest, and the majority of the tenure. Then look at this. This is Excel telling me about the frequency of the age. And you see, I've not done anything. I just put, because I know the feature exists in Excel, I just put in that into Excel. And Excel is doing the magic for me. Don't worry, you can learn all of these things. That's one of the reasons why I'll be doing the coaching after now. So, and I can continue to go on and on and on. Now, let me also show you an interesting feature in Excel. So, say for example, I have this data set, 115 data here. And I want to find the average age of the employees here. There are features in Excel that can help me do that. This is one of such, is the statistics. There's a descriptive statistics feature in Excel that brought this out. How did that happen? So if you go, this you need to enable in Excel, as a matter of fact. So what has this feature done for me? I can get the average age of the employee. It's called measures of central tendency. I know what the median is, the middle age. Mode is the most occurring age. So within this data set, the most occurring age of employees is 31 years. So the majority of the employees, or the most occurring age, is 31. That's a mode. Median is the middle number. Average is the arithmetic mean. The arithmetic mean of employees is 39. If I round it up, that's about 40 years. And you will see that I can know what the minimum age of employee is with this data is 23, and the maximum is 59. How did I do that? All you need to do is to use the data analysis feature in Excel. Now, that feature, you need to enable it within your options tab. Very critical. It is as an add-in. It comes in as an add-in in Excel. So this is it, analytics tool pack. I've actually enabled for mine, so that's why it's showing. So how does it work? I would go into, so once you put it under data, I go to data analysis. There you see it, this is it, that's it, descriptive statistics. So you want Excel to easily summarize your set of data for you. Now, this is me using, why am I checking? I want average age, I want average length of service, and I want to use the data. So I use descriptive statistics. That's what I want Excel to do. So once I click on OK, Excel will ask me, so what is the data set I want to use? So since I want to use the age here, my screen is not showing. Are you sure my screen is not showing? My screen is showing from here. If you can see my screen, let me know. I want to be sure it's not your side that is happening. It's visible. Okay. So it might be that you need to exit and come back in. Okay. Thank you for the confirmation. It might be that you need to exit and come back in. It might be network issue. Awesome. Thank you for the confirmation. So I click OK. And all I need to do is to pick the data set I want to work with. In this case, I want to work with the age that I have here extracted. So I'll do that. So Excel has copied all of that. For the input range, that is what I want Excel to analyze for me. So I analyze that. Then output range, I want it to be on the same sheet. So let me put it beside here. And I click on, I want it to give me summary statistics. That's the action. And I click OK. And there you have it. Excel has done magic. So can you see? This is the average age of the employees, basically. Excel has done that. This is the mean, median. Awesome. And this is the maximum and the minimum. And Excel has also count the number of data. So rather than going through all of the data, Excel has done that for me. Very powerful, right? Interesting. So let me go into Power BI also. I have the Power BI information I shared earlier, which I showed us. This is it. And the feature I want to illustrate to us is this feature here. The feature called Key Influencer. So that feature is available within your Power BI. This is where it is. So for those of you that are familiar with Power BI, you use Power BI. You will see your key influencer here. That's it. That's your key influencer. But I have the data already processed and I have it within Power BI. This is just an illustration, basically. Now, the data here is telling us that what influences attrition. So if the attrition is yes within that organization. So for you to know the data that is running within the backend, this is the data that is running within the backend. So I have the employee number, relationship satisfaction, training. There are three different data sets that are here actually. So this is an employee engagement survey for the employee numbers, satisfaction, training. Then this is the HRS data. This is the HRS data at the back end, the name of the employee, age, and all the related stuff. That is what is being displayed on the dashboard. Now, the part that I want to illustrate is the key influencer. Now, you will notice, if you notice that it says what influences attrition, and these are the options. We have age, we have overtime, we have years at the company. So take, for example, if I want to check overtime, I click OK. Now, what you will notice is that Excel is telling me that if an employee does overtime based on the data set, there's a possibility that this employee would leave the organization 2.93% times than any other person. Knowing fully well that because they are doing a lot of overtime, 30% of the workforce is doing overtime, and they are saying that there's a likelihood they would resign. That's all Power BI is telling me here. That's one way. Now, if I go back and I want to check, okay, is there an influence of the years they spend in the organization and how long they live? As a matter of fact, look at the first one. The first one is talking about age of the employee. It's telling me that employees that are between 21 and less have a 3.57 in likelihood of leaving, and that is very critical. This is where data help you to prove that millennials or Gen X, they like to leave, or Gen Zs as they call them, they don't like to stay in one organization for too long. This is the data. This is data now. This is not me. This is not my gut feeling. But that's what the data is saying here. And that's a lot of things, basically. So all of that feature is embedded within Power BI. Very powerful feature as it is. So I have some questions. Let me go back into my, I want to check some of the questions now. Somebody said, why did data analysis also, and this analysis be derived? The software you just mentioned, I'm not sure whether it's embedded. That's an HR software. I'm not sure whether it's embedded. What software am I using? This is actually Power BI. So I displayed two things. So this is Power BI. This is within Power BI. This is within Power BI. Interestingly, the coaching session, which I'm going to be opening up today, I'm going to be teaching you how to use Excel and Power BI for HR data analysis for anybody that is interested. So I'm just looking through the question and answer session. I think we can ask I can take one or two questions now before I tell you what the next level is. So I use Excel for the first practical, and I also use Power BI. So this is Excel. Everything I did here is in Excel. Everything on this screen was done in Excel. Everything on this screen was done in Excel from this data set. Then when I use the analyze data feature, this is from Excel. This is the analyze feature in Excel. This is Excel. Analyze feature is an AI feature embedded within Excel, and it's available as well. So questions, if you want to ask direct question, I want to take the next 5 minutes to take question before I conclude before I tell you about the coaching session. You can extract the information on, okay, someone is confirming to an earlier question that was asked earlier. Okay, you're an HR administrator. What's my HR domain? You're in HR. The things you do within HR administration differs. So that will determine your HR domain is still HR, but as a subset of HR, you are doing HR administration. So depending on what you do, basically. So that I can be able to do more questions, Okay, Juliet, you have a question. Can you quickly ask your question? You can unmute and ask your question.
Okay, good evening, sir. Thank you
Okay,
so much.
good evening.
It's been a fantastic enlightening session. So you spoke about earlier on, you spoke about having to maybe like generate maybe like a 10% increase in revenue, okay, in a company, okay. And you said what we're going to do that an organization that is productive is not about the number of manpower, but you know having the few and maximizing productivity and all of that using the few.
Yeah.
Okay, so we were given an insight I was very interested in the fact that if you're trying to present this to management to say we can get this 10% productivity, the number we have, okay, so how are you going to distribute it? How are you going to derive the data? Like one employee per, you know, like the ROI, return on investment, and bottom line. How are you going to derive it? What measures are you going to use? What metrics? Is it, I don't know, is it the aspect at work? Is it, I don't know how you're going to derive it. What is the formula? What are the metrics? What are you going to, what are the measures? What are you going to use to measure? You will present management in a data form that this is what the number we have. We can actually use them to get 10% productivity. That's
Okay.
what I want to know.
Okay. So I'm going to answer your question using a practical scenario. So this is the response to your question was in form of a case study, which I already had prepared earlier. So and I'll give you the background to that case study. And the background is the fact that, so let me just quickly read the background to you so that I can understand it fully well. So you are Chief HOD. You are the CEO of Cressida Design, a company that manufactures and sells low-price furniture, blah, blah, blah. The company has 980 employees and an annual revenue of 160 million. Last week, Chief HOD sent an email to top management team expressing his concern on the dwindling revenue of the company compared to the last 5 years of operation. He then directed another question to the newly recruited HR director to discuss how to improve organizational efficiency at Cressida Design through workforce optimization. He has asked you to speak with the finance director to do a few other things. Now, the question is this. So you have this information. You're trying to make a case to management around workforce optimization. You will need to get data from HR and outside of HR. The data you're getting outside of HR is from the finance team or the whoever is keeping the employee record or the organization record. So you have this record. This is the record from 2017 to 2022. Now you have the revenue and the headcounts without doing anything. You would agree with me that this organization made 220 million in 2017 with 800 employees. In 2022, what happened to the revenue? The revenue dropped, right? Revenue dropped in 2022, but with more employees. That is already a red flag. You can see why the management is annoyed. So let me go into Excel and do some analysis for you. So this is the issue. You have this. So let me illustrate it. Let me insert a chart. Let me help you see what is happening very well so that it's critical and it's clear. Okay, so it's not showing very well that way. So let me do it this way. Okay, so just hold on. Let me do something. I'm going to transpose, just give me a minute. I'm going to transpose that data and I'm going to turn it into a chart. I want you to see something very well. Okay, so let me turn it into a data now. Okay, so I think a graph is the best option because I'm checking trend. So let me do this. Okay, so this gives me an idea of what it is. So if you look at it very well, we're making a lot of money, but the number of employees that we're using is very few. Now, revenue per employee ratio is a ratio you can use to make a case. So one of such is that 275 is what we're making per each employee. But look at when we increase the number of employee. By the time we increase the numbers of employee, something is happening. We're making less money. That's already a danger. So as the HR person, one of the first things you're going to do is to get data. So what's the performance record over the last 5 years? If we're not making money, it means that maybe our performance as employees is dropping. What's the quality of the employees that we're dealing with? Is a lot of data sets you need to collect, because for you to be able to make a case to management, you need to collect additional data. But your data is already showing that the revenue is dropping, but with more employees, you should be making more money. Now, compared to another organization that has, look at this. This is another external information, because when you're doing analytics, sometimes you should use external data. External data is also very critical that you can use. In this scenario, this organization is making 250 million with 70 employees, which is even lesser than what you have as an organization. And you look at it. So you need to collect performance data, job satisfaction data. You need to look at job satisfaction data. You need to really look at your talent pipeline. So what quality of employees are we recruiting? What's the level of performance that we're recording over a period of time? Are the managers saying that we are doing well performance management wise, when in natural sense we are not making enough money? You need to collect all of those data and make a case. But it means that if the problem is there, you need to get data to now be able to know how to solve the problem. Does that help you? Juliet,
yes,
does
it
that
does
help?
help me. It does.
Okay,
Yes,
great. So I can see some more hands up. Awesome. I can see some more hands up. But before I take those ones, let me quickly conclude. I mentioned that I was going to be creating, I was opening up an opportunity for people to learn for the next 4 weeks. So let me quickly tell you about that. Then I'll take more questions from us. So if you're interested in learning HR data analytics from Segun Akiode, I'm opening up a coaching session for the next 4 weekends, for 4 weekends, not next 4 weekends per se. It's going to be for 4 weekends. And what am I going to be doing within that period? 4 weekends of intensive and practical training. I'm not going to be teaching you data analytics. I'm going to be teaching you HR data analysis. All the case studies we're going to be using are HR case studies. Created HR case studies. You're not just going to be learning Excel. You're going to be learning how to use Excel to improve your day-to-day HR work. Very critical. You're going to be able to master it. Now, you'll be able to learn how to organize, visualize, and analyze your data and be able to take insights out of it. As a matter of fact, the question you asked is a case study, so I didn't want to answer it too much. It's a case study inside the class. I don't want to give expo for too much. Now, all classes will be live. So I'm going to show up live like this, and I'm going to take you for the period of the 4 weekends. Now, it's very critical that the 2 major tools we're going to be mastering is Excel and Power BI. So I'm going to be doing a deep dive on Excel and Power BI. Deep dive in Excel and Power BI. You will learn how to do HR data analysis using Excel. You will learn all the various Excel functions that will be useful for HR data analysis. How do you create HR report in Excel? How do you create HR report in Power BI? So I showed you the key influencer tool in Power BI. We're going to be using those tools. As a matter of fact, it's a crash program. I'll call it, I know what it is. Most data analytics courses take 12 weeks and the rest. But I'm going to be doing a crash program, which means if you are interested, you can be able to sign up. But please, it is not a function of I'm interested. Are you ready to commit your 4 weekends? Very critical. We are going to have 12 hours of live sessions in total. So this session is a coaching session. I'm going to be hand-holding you. So if you don't have time, if you are sure or you think that you don't have time, I would rather say don't sign up. because it's going to be intensive. It's going to be intensive to the point at which you will ask me who sent you, why did you sign up for it? So you must be ready for the commitment of time. Missing classes is not an option, because the more you miss, the more you have a lot of things to get to. You are losing out on it. 12 hours, 4 weeks, 4 class assignment for each of the week. Then we're going to be doing a capstone project. What it means is that at the end of the session, you should be able to do a dashboard like this. That's what it means, using Excel and Power BI at the end of the session. So I'm showing you the outcome of the class from the beginning of the class. So you should be able to be able to do a capstone project. I'll give you the data set, tell you where you can do sample data set. You don't necessarily need to use your organization's data to practice, but the classes are they are confident. Let me say they are sample data set, but once you learn the skills, you can now implement it on your organization's data. As a matter of fact, learning these things would take your decision a notch higher. Now,